Hello, everyone. It is chill time right now. Sorry for being late. I'm 8 minutes off. Um, so let me do some stuff here. So I'm still trying to get my stream together. I have some game footage that I was missing, and then I was looking for it and couldn't find it. So I have some stuff that I need to add right now. So just bear with me as we get started here. Am I still sounding okay? Like the sound all right? Let's see here. My stuff isn't working. Here we go. Whoops. Too much stuff. Too much things. Too many things. All right. Let's. There we go. Let's see here. All right. So, man, not prepared at all today, are we? Let's see. Yeah, I guess that's just gonna have to be what it is at the moment. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and go. Oh, let me grab my notes. Yeah, I'm a mess right now, bro. Okay, okay, okay. All right, so welcome everybody. Awesome to see Skilled Bird in the chat. Skilled Bird is part of this game team, from what I could tell. You have, from what I saw, you have 1,500 hours logged in this game, Acrobatic Car, which is kind of crazy. So, all right, let's get started here. Let me turn off my chill time and turn on our Elasto, or not Elasto. What is this called? Acrobatic Car. Where's my gameplay? Here it is. Sorry, bear with me. I'm gonna do this again. Let's go. So this, turn that off. Sorry, guys. Sorry, guys. All right, you kind of see how the hot dog is made here. The sausage, the hot dog. All right, so that's there, and then we go right here and get rid of this part. Get to see me editing my stuff in real time here. Let's see. This is how you know I'm a professional. I'm a super professional. All right, so here's our gameplay, and we're putting that underneath here. Yeah, something like that. Something like that. All right. All right. All right. I think we're good to go. Let me pull up this chat real quick. All right, we're good. Okay, sorry about that, guys. All right, so thank you for joining us. Where is my face? Here it is. All right, so today is we're talking about, move my microphone here. I'm unprepared, bro. Okay, hi there. Welcome to Games Over Qualia. This is the Games Over Qualia stream. What we're going to be talking about today is Acrobatic Car, as you can see below. What we're going to do in this stream is I'm going to talk about my thoughts on the game design. I'll talk about my first impressions, and then we'll go into the developer's intentions. Just before that, or just between there, I'll talk about your guys' comments or questions if you have any. And then after we talk about the dev's intentions, then we'll go back to an open discussion, and then we'll end it from there. So usually these things go for about 30 minutes or so. Not too big of a stream, so we'll see how it goes. I just put my phone in bedtime mode. No, I don't want that. Put my phone in do not disturb mode, and we're good to go. Okay, so let's pull up my notes here, and we will get going. So I'm gonna restart this gameplay. Actually, no, I'm gonna keep the gameplay. This gameplay, I believe, is by Skilled Bird, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right, Skilled Bird? So this is not my gameplay, just to let you know. Like, usually when I have this type of gameplay, this is not, I usually have my own. This is very much a professional type of thing. This is expert level. This is not my gameplay. This is how the game would be played were someone to spend a lot of time playing the game. So, okay, so what is Acrobatic Car? Okay, so our basic description here. Okay, so Acrobatic Car is one of these types of games where if you've ever played a game like Elastomania, which is this game's main inspiration, you should know what this type of game is. If you're unfamiliar with Elastomania, or Elma as it's known as, Elastomania is a kind of a strange game. Let me pull it up here really quick so you can just see what I'm talking about. Go back to over here and pull this up right here. Let's see. Here we go. Right here. All right. Let me just put that right there. Just ignore all that stuff. Professional streamer here, guys. I'm professional. All right. This is Elastomania. Let me put this down here. Oh, man. I'm in rare form today. Okay, so this is Elastomania right here. This is a game that was, I think, made in 2000 or so. It was somewhere between 2000 and 2005, somewhere along that time. So Elastomania is a type of game that existed on these Flash sites. If you've been the type of person to have played Flash games between the early 2000s, between 2000 and 2006 or so, this is the type of game that you would see every now and then, is these types of games where it's just it's a very, I don't know what you call it, a very simple kind of game. There's clearly not a whole lot of polish that goes into it, but a lot of thought for sure, and a physics-based system at this point. So this type of game, there was a lot of these types of games back then. I played a whole lot of them. But Acrobatic Car is basically that type of game. I mean, Elastomania is a main inspiration for it. Elastomania has this kind of, I guess most of those games, but like Elastomania is one, Moto X is another. There's a few games like this where it's kind of this physics-based type of gameplay, and again, early 2000s type of game. And what I mean by that is that it's just a game that existed that's free, that's up there to play for anyone to play on these, big sites like Congregate or Albino Black Sheep or Newgrounds, those types of games where it's just free, everyone goes to play it. And the idea here is to have this kind of competitive spirit to the games, or at least that's how they grew. That's not exactly, I'm sure that's not exactly how they were seen at the beginning, but that was how they grew, and they fostered like a pretty big following for all these things. I guess you could call these followings like a kind of like a cult following a little bit. Elastomania is this type of these games have kind of grown into their own kind of world. Something that I want to call hyper optimized, because when someone plays a game like this, typically what they're trying to do is trying to, like, let's think about if you were here, in the early 2000s, you find a game online and you don't really have a computer with a bunch of games on it. It's the early 2000s. There's not There's some games out there, but you don't have a computer to run all of them. So you go online and you start looking for Flash games to play, and you find something like Elastomania or something like that, and you start just playing it, and then you find other friends that are playing it, and then you start to understand that, oh man, there's like different times that I can get. I can beat the level faster and faster, and so you start sinking your time into it and trying to master everything. Getting things faster and faster. There's another game called Trackmania that I really liked. There's another game, Flash Revolution, that I spent a lot of time with. So imagine you're that kind of person there, sinking all your time into that game. And when that happens, you start to understand nuances and you start to control the physics environment a little bit more and more. And as you do so, you start to stake your claim in the game, and you start to master it, and you start to become someone that is one of these speedrunner type of people. And that is a community all itself, right? You've now found yourself in that speed running community type of thing. And there was a bunch of these games back in the day, back in the early 2000s. They still exist. There's still a bunch of them here, but they're very different now. The landscape now in gaming is so much different than it was back in the early 2000s. And this is kind of the crux of what I want to get at here. I am enamored by this gameplay. This gameplay is insane. So for someone, the reason why I want to have my own gameplay here. Unfortunately, I don't have that with me. So the gameplay that I'm showing here is very, very, very skilled gameplay by, I believe, Skilled Bird, who has, I think, the the world record in pretty much all of these levels here. But the point here that I'm getting at is that this type of game is made for that type of obsession, right? That's how I felt when I played it. My first impressions of the game, I felt as if this game was built for obsession. It was built for people who had those early 2000s kind of time sinks in them, right? Where they found the game and they just sunk all their time into it. Another game that I sunk a lot of my time into was Soldier Front. Soldier Front, a South Korean game that came out by Iji in North America, I think in around 2004. And that type of game it's not really a speedrunning game, but it's a game that I sunk a lot of time into, and I started finding exploits and everything. Trackmania, like I said, is another one. And those types of games, when I sink a lot of time into, they feel really cool. But that was a different time period, right? That was early 2000s. Now, because this game, Acrobatic Car, is a game that's made now, right? It's for contemporary times. And I don't feel that same kind of draw for this game. And this is just my personal opinion, obviously. This is just coming from my own perspective. But when I played a game like Soldier Front was a terrible game. Just absolute terrible. Just terrible, terrible. But I loved it to death because it was free, and it was something that I could play on and on. And there was nothing that it really asked me for. You know what I mean? Like there were, it was... It was like a gambling game too. There was times that you could spend real money in the game, and I hated that. It was crazy. Like I said, it was a terrible game, but I sunk a lot of time into it because it was there. It was the only game that I had to play at the moment, and it was relatively fun, right? The same with Trackmania. Trackmania was free. I played a lot of it, and I ended up trying to, sink a lot of time into there. Like I said, now my time spent gaming now is different. I'm much older than I was back then, and I don't play those types of games anymore. So for me, this type of time sink type of game doesn't really it doesn't meld well with me. When I played this game, I felt frustrated a whole lot. Now I did get a little bit more into that type of mindset where I was like, oh, I got to master everything, and I've got to be the person that can find the nuances and the exploits between everything. And there was a little bit of time that I tried to get as fast as possible on the very first level, on one of the first levels. I can't remember which one it was. But this level right here that you can see that's playing right now is one that I completely got stuck on. In fact, I didn't even make it past the top there. So I don't even know what what levels are beyond that one. So all the levels that it's going to show I've never played before. So this is level, I think, 26 now. Yeah, I never got past level 25. Anyway, but that shows you what kind of player I am, right, when I play this type of game. And I looked at the history of this game, Acrobatic Car, and I found that on SteamDB that there seemed to be about 5 concurrent players at the max of all time. And that kind of weirded me out a little bit because I imagined that this type of game had such a large community behind it. And there might be, I'm not exactly sure. I'm sure Steam is just one of the places. But it makes me think that the reason why I was thinking about this community that's behind it is because, like I said, the game that it's inspired from, Elastomania, or those other types of games, where Trackmania or Moto X, they have this large community behind it. But the more I started thinking about it, the more I was thinking, oh, those communities, those people who played those games, they really grew from this kind of organic kind of way, right? Where it was just a game that you spent a lot of time with as a child. And then when you put your time sink into it, then you become a master. And it's like, it's something that a lot of people, I think, at the time and place, because it was the early 2000s, because there's not a whole lot of other games out, that's what happened. And I think you get a lot of masters because of that. When when I played this game, I felt like it required obsession, and that was a little weird to me, to play a game that demands obsession. The first few levels that tutorialize everything, are really interesting because they teach you how to exploit the movement, kind of. So, for example, there is a movement in this game where you can use a boost, right? You use your boost to go forward really fast. Now, you can use that boost also to fly. We talked about this on a previous video with Hovershot, where we talked about the game. What was the game? Rocket League. In Rocket League, you're using your rockets to go forward really fast, right? But some people can use those rockets to do other things, like smash players in the air, or air dribble, as we talked about, where you can fly with the ball at the same time. So you're exploiting kind of these different types of nuances in the movement to do something very specific, very expressive. And it seems like this game, because of the levels that are designed for it, it seems like it wants the player, like it demands that the player know those things, those nuances. So there was even, like in the tutorial, there's times where it says, hey, you can use your boost to fly also. Check this out, right? And there's a level where you go straight into a wall, and then you're supposed to use your boost upward and then fly through the area. Then it goes on from there to show another level where you fly, back and forth and back and forth. And it's one of those things that's just really strange to me, because if you were to take a game like Super Smash Brothers and then have have levels where they're dedicated to wave dashing, or if you had levels in I don't know, Trackmania, that's dedicated to doing barrel rolls, or a level that's dedicated in what's the game in Rocket League to air dribbling, which I'm sure actually exists at this point. But those types of things, they're community driven things. They're community things that build up from the ground because of this organic nature of someone that's getting so invested in the game that they understand all the nuances. And it seems like Acrobatic Car wants us to do that from the get-go, from the very beginning. Like, it's demanding that the player not know all of these things, but at least get invested, get really deeply invested in those things. And that really turned me off of the game. Just me personally, because when I play a game like this, I don't want to have a time sink immediately as I play the game, and it feels like that it's demanding a lot of my time. And I take my time pretty seriously, at least in 2026. And as old as I am, that's something that I think about differently than I was when I was a kid. When I was younger in the early 2000s, I would play something like Flash Revolution, and I would easily spend 2 to 4 hours mastering one, not even mastering, just playing over and over and over to see how good I could get, right? Same with a game like Trackmania. I would play. I discovered there was a fourth medal in Trackmania when I was younger. They have different types of medals. They have bronze, silver, and gold as you go through the track. And the faster you get, each medal that you go up to. And then there's one that's called the author medal, and it blew my mind, because what that means is that you beat the speed that the person who built the track did, right? And I was able to do that when I was younger, and I ended up doing that for a lot of tracks. But it was something that, again, at the time, I dedicated a lot of time to, because I was younger, because it was a different mindset, a different time and place. Let's see. So what I wanted to talk about was fostering that obsessive culture, right? Because that is what we're doing here in this game is we're trying to foster an obsessive culture. Or at least that's what it feels like to me. It feels like we want players to spend a lot of time really knowing the intricacies of this game in order to pull this types of stuff that you can see in front of me, above me. That's something that I can't do when I played the game, and clearly the game wants you to do that. I mean, these are the more advanced levels, but even in the beginning, there's a lot of levels like that. Like I said, the flying one was pretty odd and difficult for me, and it seems like that's what we're going for here. So it made me think of how the levels are designed in Trackmania, because Trackmania is very different from the way that um, it pushes the player forward. So clearly in this game, in Acrobatic Car, you are being pushed forward by nuance of control. You are being pushed forward by mastery. You need to know everything. We're going to show you a level. You need to beat it that way, and then you go, right? And then you continue. You progress forward. In Trackmania, it's not that way, right? Now, I'm going to unfairly compare this to Trackmania because I like the way that Trackmania does its level design, and it's fostered this community that's very obsessive. So in Trackmania, what you're doing in those very beginning parts of the game is you have these levels that are just simple. They're simple beginning to end, and they just have you start. It's a racing game, right? If you haven't played Trackmania, it's a racing game. So you race from the beginning to the end, and that's it. And you're not racing against any computers or anything. It's a single player experience. The only thing that you're racing against is the ghost of the track, which is just a pre-recorded line that someone else did. So you do that. You race against this other person or this other ghost or whatever, and you try to beat them, and that's it. That's the end of the game, right? That's the end of the level, at least. And then once you do that, then you can go on to the next level. And then the next level, it's not a linear thing. It's kind of like you can just choose whatever. But it's building up this idea that the point of the game is just to get from point A to point B. And if you can beat it in the slowest time that you can, it doesn't matter. As long as you beat the level, you're good, right? Now, in order to unlock other levels, you have to get faster. So that's fine. You can do that. You can beat the bronze level, and if you want to be faster than that, you can try to beat the silver or beat the gold. And like I said, you can even beat the author if you want to. But the uh, the point here is that we're building up this very, very slow idea of just going forward and beating the level as soon as you can. And you should see the insane amount of people that do these crazy things in Trackmania because of so much nuance of control. And I think how they got to that point was realizing that there's a bunch of physics nuances that they can do within the game in order to go faster and faster. And that's what's really cool about that game. And we talked about this once before with a game called Tangled Crisis, where we were talking about speed and trying to make the player go faster and faster and trying to push them toward that idea of the nuance of control. So when you want a player to go faster and faster, what you do is you just give them something to do, right? Just like I said, point A to point B. And then you say, okay, can you do it faster? Can you do it faster than that? Can you do it faster than that? And it's just voluntarily letting the player realize that they can go faster and faster, and that they'll themselves will try to shave off seconds by trying to exploit the movement, trying to make the movements behave in different ways and stuff. And that's something that they do voluntarily. It's not something that you demand from them. It's not something that you put into a level, not necessarily. I mean, you can, it's a different experience, but that's how Trackmania did it, right? Trackmania was just saying, hey, can you go faster and faster? And what's really cool about this is that you have, like I said, you have players that can do these insane acrobatic type things, pun intended, for Trackmania. And there are some acrobatic tracks. Sorry, I keep moving the microphone. There are some acrobatic tracks in Trackmania that require the player to do some crazy kind of air stuff. But the stuff that they ask you to do it's so simple at first. They say, here's a 90-degree turn that is different than from all the other tracks that you've been doing, where you go from point A to point B. This is still point A to point B. I would show this right now, but I don't have this gameplay up with me. It's a track that goes straight and then does a 90-degree turn, and that's it. But what that does is it tells the player, oh, there's something different you can do, by the way. It's not necessarily saying, hey, you must do this as fast as possible, but you must get from point A to point B in this weird type of way. So here it is. And then when the player goes, oh, hey, I know how to do that. Let me see if I can do it faster, right? And then they keep trying and keep trying and keep trying. And then by that time that you have understood and internalized the level, then suddenly you have a bigger, much bigger understanding of the intricacies involved, and geez, you have a much bigger understanding of the intricacy involved in your movement, and that is really cool because that's just fostered. That's just something that the player does by themselves, and the game itself does not demand. So I really like the way that Trackmania does that, and I think that would help a whole lot in a game like Acrobatic Car. So, that being said, I'm going to go to the comments right quick and see what you guys had to say. So, here we are in the comments. We said, Skilled Bird says correct. Thank you. I'm not sure where. I'm guessing that you were talking about this is the gameplay of yours. Let's see. What is a player supposed to gain from playing this? Oh, that's a good question. Any place but here. I would assume they're trying to gain some sort of satisfaction of mastery. Actually, we'll talk about that going forward. We'll talk about the dev's intentions. Moving on, Digital Green Tea says, reminds me of Line Rider, brings me back to 2006. Totally. I was totally talking about Line Rider in my notes, talking about this game. I really like Line Rider, and it does actually have that same kind of aesthetic about it. It's pretty funny. Frying Panjo says, yeah, that's his name. Yeah. Loved playing Elastomania back in the day. I think I broke the top 100 at one point, but could never really pull off the craziest time saves. The developer medal. Yeah, you're talking about the dev medal in Trackmania. Yeah, I've never played Elastomania, but that's crazy that you broke the 100. That's pretty insane. I can't pronounce this name. Apophonesis? I don't know. This used to be my norm in arcades with high score chasing in every game. Absolutely. That's something that I could, that's exactly what I'm talking about, is that kind of, you continuously do these things over and over. Action Supercross, that was another one for sure. Action Supercross was it was the predecessor, I think, to Elastomania's. Moto X was another one that I played that I really enjoyed. Jostra Cross before that. Interesting. Okay. I only played it a little bit just in preparation for this game, but that was about it. Okay, so I'm going to go into the developer's intentions now. So whenever someone submits a game to me, I want to make sure that our gameplay is good here. Okay, so whenever someone submits a game to me, I ask them questions, and those questions I will get to once I have my notes ready. Come on, notes. Here we go. All right. Nope. Wrong notes, bro. Okay, we can do this. We can do this. All right, I got him. Look at me. I can do it. Okay, so this person this developer had answered the questions. I believe Yasso was the person who had both developed the game and answered my questions when submitting this, I believe. So the first question that I had was, let's see, where's my first question? Yeah. So what were you hoping that the player would feel while playing your game? This person gave a long list of terms. So it wasn't long, but they gave a list of few terms with definitions for them. So the first one was nostalgia. And they said they wanted to make the player remember the old fun days of Flash Games era. So there you go. Number two was simplicity. They said that they want the player to feel that they play the game and that the game is not playing them by demanding grinding and consuming their time to understand complex systems. We'll talk about that. The next one was challenge. They said that they want to have the player feel a dopamine rush upon completing a hard track. They said neophilia, which to them meant make the player feel that they have played a really new game, new mechanics, new experience, and not the same familiar game formulas repeating over and over like nowadays. And they also said creativity, like the old days when games would have level editors to unleash players' creativity and imagination. I want them to feel creative by making their own tracks via the built-in level editor, which I actually never tried. I did not try the level editor, so I won't be talking about that. But that is a part of it. My second question was, why did you choose this experience as opposed to something else? This person said, I was having fun in my childhood playing the classic game Elastomania and many other monster truck flash games, and suddenly these kinds of games that I loved had suddenly disappeared for various reasons. So I always waited for this genre of games to show up again. Waited for any developer to make this a similar game, but that never happened. So I decided to make one myself and add modern mechanics and ideas to it. My third question was, were there any specific moments, mechanics, or ideas that you built around that emotional goal? This is my last question. And their answer was, it's all about iterations, dozens of ideas and mechanics that I kept adding and removing and tweaking through the early development process. I think they meant to put more onto that answer, I assume, because that answer was pretty short and not really explanatory, but that's okay because the other ones were pretty full. So the first thing I want to talk about is that first answer that they provided. Clearly, they hit the nostalgia, I think, perfectly. They very much made a game that's very similar to Elastomania. Simplicity, I'm not so sure about the simplicity. It's a physics-based game, so like it's approachable for sure. I would say it's definitely approachable. I would not say it's simple. I would say it's very I'm not sure. It's not really complex, but when you think about the nuances and control and you know, how much you really need to know the mechanics going into this game, I would not say it's simple at all. Challenge, you would say, they said that they wanted to have this dopamine rush upon completing a hard track. That was a little weird for me because for me, I never found a dopamine rush. Now, I would say, there are some people I'm sure that will play this game and have that dopamine rush, but I'd say that's very much an individual based thing. Like I get a dopamine rush from playing Dead Cells, right? When I see like 9 enemies all attacking me at once, and I'm able to maneuver my way around them and destroy all of them within 10 seconds or something. That gives me a dopamine rush because I know what I'm about to do and I'm doing it, right? I have this intention and it's met with this dopamine rush of me carrying out that intention. This game, Acrobatic Horror, for me at least, my intention was never there. It's kind of there, right? It is. I'm trying to do something within the game, but most of all, I'm trying to master what it is that I'm doing. I'm trying to master my movement. I'm trying to master, moving the car up and down, trying to brake while I'm doing specific types of movements. Trying to get all these nuances in my movement to work, and it's sometimes working, sometimes not. I would say that this filled me with relief a whole lot rather than dopamine every time that I completed a level. It was very, very difficult. And once I finally completed the level, I was like, oh, finally, right? I finally did it. It was very much relief and not dopamine for me specifically. And then creativity. Neophilia. That was really interesting. So neophilia is the idea, I believe, of experiencing something new, right? Like the way that they described it, they wanted someone to feel like they were having a brand new experience that is not like games nowadays. And I have to disagree with what games nowadays meant. I imagine, developer, I imagine you're coming from a very specific type of perspective, and that when you think of what games nowadays are, you're thinking of something very specific. I don't know what you're talking about specifically. I imagine you have something in your mind. But for me, I would say nowadays we have probably the most varied gameplay that I've ever seen ever, right? I've never seen, games like, I don't know. What I'm trying to think of, like Celeste is one. Crimson Desert just came out. Roblox, Death Stranding. Just insane amounts of weird games that are out there right now. One that I just played, not too long ago, was this really strange one. What was it called? Oh, I talked about Post Void. That was really strange. Anyway, I won't go into it. But the point is, that I believe there's a lot of new games already here, and I believe you're literally, doing this kind of callback to the early 2000s. So I would not say this is neophilia. I would say this is definitely nostalgia for sure. Not so much neophilia. I would not say that I felt that at all. I would say that nostalgia and neophilia are kind of conflicting goals at that point. And then I wanted to talk about this second answer that you talked about, and this is my last point, but the idea of you wanting to relive this elastomania idea, right? We talked about this a little bit in the beginning, but elastomania was very much its own type of deal. Like I said, like if you were to come out with elastomania nowadays, I don't think you would have much success with it, unless it was just so weird and so strange, and that people really like that weird and strange type of gameplay. Then perhaps. But I don't think it would catch on. So I think it's cool that what you made is that kind of game. I think it's really cool that you have like a very specific audience that you're going for. I am all about creating art, right? Creating games for the art, like that kind of thing is really cool for me. I really appreciate that. But if you were trying to get a lot of people involved in this, and if you're trying to build a community, if you're trying to do a mass appeal kind of thing, that's different than I think trying to just simply recreate a different thing. If all you're doing is recreating Elastomania, then that's awesome. Then more power to you, and I hope you enjoy what you have created. I think that's really cool. I would say that it's not a mass appeal game, and that's totally fine if it's not. I'm just saying that it's not that way. It doesn't seem like it's going to be that way. That's not a criticism. Like I said, this is just a critique. This is just understanding what the game is versus what it isn't. And for me, it was not a game that I felt drawn to. I played Trackmania again to try to figure out, the level design compared to a game like this. And I still fell into that nostalgia a little bit, but I did realize that while I was playing the game, it wouldn't capture me the same way. I also played Line Rider recently, and playing Line Rider now is just such a slog for me. So it makes sense that, you have a community and you have a community and you have a very specific audience that you're going toward. And I love that. And I think more power to you. And I think games like that need to be made. I think that's a really cool thing. I just want, you to know that this is not, this is most likely probably not going to appeal to just everybody at all times. I think you're very honed in on a very specific audience, and that's fine. That is what it is. So those are my thoughts, my guys. I'll go back to the chat here really quick. I think we only had one other comment from Paolo Gates. It says, when you're intending to top past the summit, make sure you know where it is. Cool mitosis quote. Interesting. When you're intending to top past the summit, make sure you know where it is. That's an interesting quote. I'm not sure what that means exactly. I think I know what it means. But that's about it. Thank you guys so much for hanging around here. If you have any comments, if you want to play the game, I believe the game's free to play. It is there's a link in the description. But when I edit this video and make it like an actual video, a standalone video, it'll have much more examples, much more visual examples that you can see, and it'll have my gameplay, my honest to God, really bad gameplay that you can see, and not this amazing stuff that Skilled Bird has done here. And I hope you guys play it, and I hope you guys see, what it's like and everything. So thank you so much for joining me. Really appreciate you guys being here. And I think that is about all we got today. So I will see all of you guys later. I don't see any acrobatics in this gameplay. It says any place but here. Yeah, I suppose not. Great analysis. Really enjoyed the stream. Thank you, Frying Pan Joe. What a great name. Yeah, there's some acrobatics. I would say there's some. All right, you guys. I will talk to you guys another time. Thank you again so much for being here. And I will see you guys later. Peace.